차렷, 경례. Welcome back, Taekwondo viewers, Realtor viewers. How are you? Today I'm here with my mentor, Mark Terry. I think Mark is like a triple diamond at Smidra, right? Was that you got there last year, I think? Yeah, I'm double diamond, so I'm one level behind Mark, but he's gonna help me to get to that next level or even better by farming a neighborhood. So what is farming, Mark? Can you tell us what is that like? Put seeds on the ground. What's going on here?
But before I get started, John, I just want to say that mentor means the old guy. Um, but I earned these gray hairs. A guy told me a long time ago, one gray hair for every transaction. And when I first started in real estate, there was a saying that was something to the effect that to last, you have to list. And listing agents that spend their time and their effort and money on going for listings find that they will eventually work with about 50% buyers just because of their listing activities. So
That's okay.
we can edit out my wife.
No, we're gonna keep her in there.
You can leave her in there?
Yeah.
All right, you don't have to crawl next time. So the concept that came to me from my mentors, and I had a number of them, was the concept of farming. I said, well, what is farming? And farming simply became about because you look at a specific geographical area, the farmland that you want, and you spend your time fertilizing, and cultivating, and planting, and hoeing the weeds out, and working on that area for a long time, and eventually you will have a crop that will come in. So I think that's where farming came in, but the technical term is farming is a hyper-focused marketing activity in a geographic area. And so I think that's what we're going to explore today.
Wow, that sounds very technical. So people ask me, John, you've been in business for 22 years. Mark, you've been in business for 30 years. Those are old, archaic techniques. Would it still work in 2020? Would it still work?
That's an excellent question. And I've been asked that many times myself. And the answer is yes. Every successful agent anywhere in this country that is selling real estate and has been for a long time is a farmer. That's a simple but very true statement. The activity of going for and becoming the king or queen of your neighborhood or the area that you are working in is key to success in real estate, whether it's 1990 or 2020.
So, Mark, I've heard farming is very expensive. I mean, it takes lots and lots of money. What do you think? A young broker, brand new broker, or 1 year into it, do you recommend farming for your agents, or is it just for the older agents?
Let's face it, when we sell, you, me, or any new agent or any experienced agent, what we sell really is ourselves. We are the product. And our expertise and the knowledge people have of our activities in a given area is what we are promoting. And that's what farming does. Farming, again, is a hyper-focused activity in a given area. And there are things that you can do as a farmer that don't cost anything. You can attend neighborhood meetings. You can attend neighborhood charity events. You can offer to be a speaker at a local event. Things aren't happening right now because of the virus, but things will open up again. Schools, local libraries are always looking for speakers that can come in and talk about what's going on in the real estate market. Single most asked question I get, how's the market? Well, stand up in front of a group of people and tell them about what's going on. And that's one step in becoming the expert in a given area. You can volunteer for charity events. We, for years, helped with a local elementary school in the area that I was farming. And we still do. We still provide charity donations to that elementary school, but my name is still at the top of people's minds. I advertise for a very small amount of money in elementary or middle school or high school directories. Sponsor a sporting team, sponsor a little league team, or donate to the hockey team, whatever's going on in an area. The world will open up again. And that's when a real estate agent can be there to provide information in newsletters, in anything that is one of the great formats these days is Nextdoor. Become the neighborhood expert when people ask questions. Hey, does anybody know where I can get my house painted? Well, make it your business to have 2 or 3 good house painters on your list. Plumbers, electricians, remodelers, landscaping people. The list goes on and on and on. Do your homework. If you're going to be a farmer, be ready to provide that information. Be the person that is the one that they think of when they think of real estate. Now, your question, is it expensive? Things like direct mail, things like Google ads or neighborhood directory ads, or any focused ad by click for Google, things like that nature, those can be expensive. So spend your money wisely. But the thing that you asked me at the beginning, John, is so true. Does it take a while? And the answer is yes. You cannot become a local expert in any area or in any endeavor in this life, for that matter, without repeated effort. I was taught a long time ago that to make a sale, you got to ask for that sale a minimum of 8 times.
Wow.
People aren't prepared to make that effort. A lot of people aren't prepared to ask that question over and over again. And am I being bothersome? No, I'm providing information. And when the time comes, hopefully you'll be in a position to be able to help them with the sale of their house.
Perfect.
Their kids need a house, or their neighbors, friends need a house. So anyway.
That's wonderful. That couple points you made was amazing. 8 times before they will move on a sale. What a great quotation. And for the referral list, actually, that's something our company, Metro Brokers Elite, could help, because we've been compiling a list of preferred vendors. We have hundreds of vendors on our list that's available to any one of our Metro Broker Elite family of realtors. So just wanted to point that out. So going back to the topic of farming, there is a good saying too that it's better to show something than tell a story. So Mark and he's my mentor, I'm the mentee. He's actually preparing me to farm an area. So I've been doing some of his homework. Mark told me to look at an area with 350 homes about. So can you touch on that a little bit? Why 350 or 400?
Great question, John. I learned that from my mentor. I was told that for a number of reasons, and back in the day, part of that reason was when you were doing direct mail and you were paying for your mailings, there was something about that 350 that made it make more sense for the expense for your direct mail and your prepaid postage. But that number is carried out in that it just makes it a lot easier to manage in terms of expense, and in terms of being able to track that neighborhood to find an area of about 350 to 400 homes. Now, I want to say that the neighborhoods that I worked and I farmed were suburban areas. I got out and I walked those neighborhoods. That's not always possible these days, but I knew the demographic of people that were looking at the homes in that area that I was farming. If I were marketing millennials that I knew wanted more of an urban setting, I would focus my marketing effort on about 350 to 400 in a given area as far as maybe 3 condominium buildings or 4-block area, but that it's just easier to maintain control over and to monitor and control your expenses with that number of 350 to 400.
So I'm a young broker. Maybe I've been in business for 1 year. So we have my mentees, I would say about 4 of my mentees that are brand new are doing amazing jobs. Some of them are closing deals already left and right. For those guys, should we recommend them farming right away, or should they wait 2 more years? What do you think, Mark?
I think the answer is yes. I think because it takes a little while to decide on the area that you're going to farm. I think one of the things that you and I talked about, John, was look at a given area. How many homes are turning over in that area?
Right, right.
I mean, everybody likes selling $1 million houses, but if you look at an area and there's 350 homes, there was only 2 sales there in the last 2 years. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe look on the part of the city that there is a lot more turnover and see if there are a lot of homes that are selling in there. Also, maybe look at areas that are selling a lot of homes and see how many agents are working that area. Look at all the solds. If one agent has sold 80% of the homes in that area,
don't go in there.
That's a farmer. That's a farmer that you're going to have. I'm not telling you not to, but just know that it's going to take more money and more time to dislodge somebody or to get your piece of the pie. Go for an area that maybe there's only 10 different agents that sold 1 house each. That's an area that's right for farming. Plus, if I'm a young agent and I've sold a couple of houses in a given area or a given neighborhood, and I can brag about those sales. And part of my early marketing effort in that farming effort is, hey, just sold. I found your new neighbor at such and such an address. Postcards can be relatively inexpensive. You can buy your own, print your own, address your own, like I did early in my career. I put all my own addresses on until I started being able to afford to pay for it. There are ways to do it, but you get your name out there. I like the rule of thumb that I had was I wanted everybody in my farm area to hear from me at least 3 times a month.
3 times a month. Wow.
That was by direct mail. I also, as John likes to point out to me and a number of people, that my face is on shopping carts. Now, the shopping carts that I initially advertised on were in a grocery store directly across the street from the neighborhood that I farmed. I knew a lot of the neighbors were in that went to that grocery store. And so I spent the money on doing that. If that store had been 2 miles away, I would not have advertised there because it's not focused enough. I see people that I know that are very successful agents, and they still have their faces on bus bench ads. Do people buy homes off bus bench ads? The answer is probably not. They probably don't buy them off shopping cart ads, but what it is, the concept is called top of mind. And does Coca-Cola need to put Coca-Cola on all their trucks? Everybody knows who Coca-Cola is, but they do. It's top of mind.
Perfect. Wow. Top of mind. So that brings me back to, so even if I'm young broker, I just got in, a couple of my guys closed 2 deals in the past 3 months. So they could probably leverage that into the neighborhood that they may want to farm. They just have to do some research, make sure there's no big farmer in that area. So thank you so much for that tip.
John, you froze there when you were talking.
Yeah.
So ask that question again.
Sure. I think it was on my recording, but anyway, I've been doing this for 6 months. I closed few deals, but maybe those young brokers should look at those areas and research to see if there are any farmers, if anybody's selling more than 10% of the homes in there. If not, maybe that could be a good farming area for them to get started.
Absolutely, John. I don't think it's too soon for anybody to start, because I think I mentioned earlier, and I would like to say it again, that the rule of thumb is if you successfully farm a neighborhood, 50% of your activity from that farm will be sales and 50% will be buyers.
Okay, so this is from a previous appointment you and I had, but in the first 10 years of farming your area, I think you told me you spent about $100,000, maybe 10,000 a year. Um, what was your return on that money? $100,000, that's a lot of money for 10 years.
Well, if you looked at it at the end of 2 years, it was pretty dismal. The neighborhood that I picked was being farmed by an unnamed but very, very successful Denver real estate, really a real estate legend in Denver. And she moved on. Another couple of agents were farming the area. And I think I shared with you, John, that my first listing in that neighborhood I took for $500. I wanted my sign to be up in that neighborhood. And I was able then to build on that early success, because believe me, people heard that one house I sold, they probably thought I sold 10, because I really emphasized the fact that I sold that house, and hey, last month I sold this house, and but in 20 some plus years of working in that neighborhood, John, I think I shared with you, I've had almost 150 sides of homes in that neighborhood, including 2 homes that I've actually participated in at least 5 transactions on each of those 2 homes. So it took a while, but it did pay off.
So this farming may take longer than the regular farming, because regular farming, you plant some seed in the spring and you could harvest it in the fall that same year. But this
Unless you get hit by hail.
unless you get hit by, but this farming seems like you got to wait out 2 years, 3 years before. I mean, unless you're really, really lucky, you had to give it a lot of time at the front end.
John, I think that's an excellent point, and that's what I tell agents. I think I shared with you: be prepared to spend the money and be prepared to stick with it.
Mm-hmm.
Because the old saying, it's always darkest right before the dawn, is true. You spend the money, you spend the time, you spend the effort, you do the volunteer work in that neighborhood, you get your name known, and pretty soon that phone will ring. And it's a wonderful feeling, but you have to have the ability and the determination to stick with it.
Well, that's why the viewers, or this channel, is called Taekwondo Realtor. And one of our principles is indomitable spirit, which means you never give up under no circumstances. So once you start something like Mark has done for the last 22 years or longer in farming, you stick with it. You 8 tries before you get somebody to sell their house or do something. So that is a great thing. Thank you for sticking with us for this interview. And thank you, Mark, for sharing your knowledge. Not many realtors will do what you do. You know something, but they don't want to share because they don't want other competitors to learn something. But that's not who we are at Metro Brokers Elite. We're a family. So if you're one of us, you're our family. So Mark doesn't mind sharing his secrets. So Mark Mark will help you. If you're brand new agents with us in our company, feel free to call Mark and ask him about these questions. I'm sure he'll be happy to sit down with you and spend 30 minutes or an hour. At least you buy him lunch at Del Frisco's. I think he'll like that, right?
Advice is free and worth every penny.
Yeah. So thank you for the amazing interview. I think a lot of our viewers appreciate it. I think this is something we should definitely think about with COVID situation. We can't do a lot of open houses right now. We can't do a lot of door knocking. So maybe traditional farming might be a good idea to implement to your career and to have a successful real estate career. Thank you for your time again, Mark, and we'll see you next time. 차렷!